Alright, well, I was driving home the other day in the M, and the tire pressure light came on as I was driving, which is odd, because usually when that happens, that means you picked up something in your tire and it's going down really fast. So it turns out I picked up something in one of my tires, and my tire was getting low. But I was close enough to the house, I was able to get on home, and now I can fix it. So normally, I'd just take the tire off, and put a plug in it or take it over to the tire shop and get them to patch it from the inside. But I got to thinking, you know, what would happen if I came out from work and went to hop in the car and the tire was flat like this right here. So, because this is a BMW and a lot of the newer BMWs don't have spare tires, what do you do in this situation? Well, we'll look in the trunk and we're going to see what BMW provided for us, and then talk a little bit about why I'm not going to use that and why I never use that, because it just costs you extra money and it messes things up that has to be replaced. Alright, so if we pop the trunk, we get to see what BMW gave us. So I usually keep a toolbox in here, because I always just keep a toolbox in my cars, just in case something comes up. You can get something on the road, or if somebody has a problem, you can help them out. And so let's look down in here and see what BMW gave us. As you can see, there is no spare tire. There's just a bunch of electronics, because BMW must have had to make a choice. Do I want a spare tire or do I want a battery and some relays? Well, they elected for all of this sitting in where normally the spare tire sits. So what BMW gives you is a little pump. And so right in here is a little pump, and they give you a bottle of goo. And so this is the bottle of goo that comes with it. Now if you have run flats on your BMW or your car, you might not even have this, but you can pick these things up. You can buy them off Amazon or eBay, somewhere like that, and they fit perfectly inside these little things. These are the OEs, but I got aftermarket ones in my wife's car because she's got run flats, but I've swapped them out because I don't like how those run flats run down the road. So this is what we have, but let's talk a little bit about what would happen if you use the Fix-A-Flat or whatever that stuff is in that bottle, slime or whatever it is, BMW slime, and the little pump. So we'll get set up back over here and we'll pull these out and talk a little bit about them. Alright, so here is the routine that BMW provides us when we have a flat. And so whatever's in there, you would just leave it in there. You don't try to take it out if you're going to use this stuff right here. You just leave it in there, and then what we do is take our little pumpy and we get this thing out. And so that's going to hook up to the cigarette lighter in the vehicle, and then this guy is the pumper. And what they want you to do is take your little can of goo, and this one is going to go to the tire right here. And so you would take that one and hook it up to the tire, and take this one and hook it up to that little guy right there. Get him all nice and tight. Turn him upside down where he's standing like that right there. Plug in this guy, turn the pump on, fill it up with goo. So that sounds all great, grand, and good, and it's pretty quick. I mean, you know, if you bought one of these new, you don't want to mess around. You got enough money, you can just replace the tire. You're going to replace the tire pressure sensor, you know, all these kind of things. You're going to pay extra at the tire shop for somebody to get all that goo back out of there, but no big deal if you bought it new. And that's who BMW is kind of concerned about, is the person that buys this thing new. But for us that aren't taking them back to BMW anymore, and they're not wanting to spend $300 on a new tire, we need a little bit better option. So what we're going to do, which is what I normally do in this situation, where I've never put that stuff in any of my tires except for maybe a lawnmower or something like that, is we're going to actually fix the tire. But unfortunately, because they don't give you a spare tire, they don't give you a jack. So you don't have any way of getting this tire off to fix it. Now, I'm at home, so I could put a jack under it and take it off and do all that and go get it fixed. But let's just say I came out of work, and here I am sitting like this right here, I don't want to put new tires on it because my tires are in good shape. I don't want to risk all that stuff putting that goo in there. So what am I going to do? Well, you got to plan a little bit ahead on this, because given the situation right now with what they give you, this is your only option. But we got a little extra bag in the back that I put in there for just in case something like this happens. So let's go back there and look in our little bag, because we're actually going to use the pumper, pretending that we're at work and we come out and it's flat. We're going to use this little pumper, but we're not going to use the goo. So let's go back in the trunk and see what all you need to prepare for to do this without having to replace your tire. All right, so we're back looking in the trunk, and like I said before, I always keep a toolbox, and so you can just pick up a cheap toolbox. You don't even have to have one that has as much stuff as this, but you need one that's got, you know, some pliers and things, because we're going to take out whatever's in the tire and we're going to put a temporary plug in there. So get a little toolkit that's at least got a few of these in them, and then that way you can get that whatever's in it out once you find it. But in order to find it and in order to fix it, you got to have a few extra things. So over here in my little bag, that is the tire fixing bag, I keep a bottle of water. So we're going to need a bottle of water, and we're going to need the little tool to put the plug in. We're going to need a little scrubber thing that scrubs the hole. I'll show you how to use that. I just keep a tire pressure gauge in there. And then you can pick these up. These are from Slime. You can see I've had them in there, and I've used quite a few over the years because we got so much dang construction around here. I'm always picking up something in my tires. But these are from Slime, but the other companies make them as well. The ones that I like are these sticky black rubbery looking guys, and they're kind of like, I don't know what they are, but they got some kind of fiber in them, and then they got some kind of rubber. And I've never taken these back out, and rarely do I take a tire over and get it patched on the inside. These little guys hold up fine if you put them in there right. So this is a good one. I like these. Other companies make them. These just work pretty good, and I've been using them forever. I bought them 30. So about 30 of them. I got probably 10 left. And what else is in our bag? We can see we got a little bottle of soap. I'll show you what that's for. That's like from a stay at a hotel. And then last but not least, one of these cheap little razor knives. And so that's all what it takes for our kit that we're going to use over here on the tire to actually fix this thing and not have to put that goo in there. So for just a few bucks, you can get you a cheap set of tools, some of those little guys right here, and then these come with a kit. You can buy it all together, and then some water and some soap. So let's get set back up over here on the tire, and we'll see about putting a plug in this thing so we can get on about our way. All right, so we're all set up by our flat tire here, so we got our little kit out. So step one is we got to figure out where our leak is, because the thing's just totally flat. Let's say I've been sitting, you know, at work working, and I come out 8 hours later, thing's flat. Well, there's no air in it, so there's no way to find my leak right now because there's no air in it. So step one is we got to air it up a little bit and kind of see where our leak is. So first off, we take our little pumper. You know, like I say, I'm out at work and been working all day, frustrated because I had to work, and here I got this flat tire, so I'm annoyed. So just got to chillax. I get my little pumper, and it's actually got a gauge on it, so that's kind of cool. And we can see our little gauge, so I don't have to use this one because he's going to tell me my pressure. But first off, I got to get some air in it. So in order to do this, you could run it for a little bit on your battery, but then you might run into battery problems. So what I'm going to do is actually start the car, which is probably the best thing to do. I'm going to start the car up, and then I'm going to hook the pumper up, and we're going to pump it up. Now this car is loud because I got some cutouts on it. So we'll start it up, and then after it calms down and it's running, then hopefully we'll be able to get the video back on. So you'll hear it start up. so we got some air in it now. And so we can look for our leak. So you can see when I turned it off, it starts going back down. I mean, it's got enough that it raised it up. So now I can try to find my leak. So let's take this little guy back off. Right there. And now this is where our water and our soap bubbles come in. So what we want to do is get us some water and get us some soap bubbles. And we're gonna see if we can find our leak now that we got some air in there. So let's just some soap bubbles in. We're gonna shake it all up, make it soapy. Alright, so your little tool's got a point on it, so what we can do is just poke a hole in the top, and we're gonna be able to squirt some water around. So there we go. So now all you're gonna want to do is just run around your tire and put some water on it and try to figure out where this leak might be with the bubbles in it. Now it could be if you look all around and you don't see it bubbling, it may be underneath, so you may actually have to put the car in neutral and easily back it up. At that point you might want to air it up as much as you can, back it up a little bit and look again. So I already know where mine is because I found it. So if we look right here, right there, you can see there's my screw. So if I put water on it, you can see the bubbles coming out. So bubble, 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 and it's a pretty good leak. Well, like I say, you gotta look around and put some water all over everything and see if you can find it. But you can see my leak right there. It's leaking pretty good. So I know where mine is. I was able to find it pretty easy just by looking around. All right, so now we got our leak identified. Now what we're gonna do about it? Well, this is where the other little tools come in. And so I got to get that out of there so I can fix my leak. Now, fortunately for me, it's right on the edge of the tread, so I can put a plug in that and I'll be okay. It's right on the side, so if I plug it and I pump it up and I head on home like normal, I may decide that I want to take it to a tire shop. They'll actually dismount the tire, put a patch in the inside of it, and then we'll be in real good shape. I don't have to get rid of my $300 tires, and we'll go on. Alright, so let's get set up and figure out how to take that out. Now, like I say, if we're not going to plug it, if you were just going to put the goo in there, just leave that in there. Even if you find it, don't take it out and put the goo in. But for me, I'm going to actually plug it, and so I got to get that out of there. So let's get set up underneath here, and we're going to pull that out. We'll show you how to put a plug in, and then we'll be ready to air up and go on. Alright, so we found where we're leaking from, so now we got to get that guy out. So that's where just having a couple of these cheap tools right here is going to help you to get that out. So what we got to do is try to figure out how to pull that guy. And you can hear it hissing. So it doesn't want to come out of there because it's a screw. If it was a nail, it'd probably just pull out of there real easy. So I think I'm going to have to unscrew it from my tire, but we'll get it out of there. Looks like it was indeed a roofing nail. And what you want to see is when you're pulling it out, what's the orientation of the screw, because you're going to have to put the tool in there. So you can see it went in there and it was kind of like that when it came in. So I'm going to find the hole and I'm going to put it in there now. You pull it out, now it's leaking really good. You can hear it leaking. So what we got to do is let that air come out. So we can either just let it leak out of the hole if it's that bad, or we can take the little filler and help it get some air out too. But we got to get all the air out so we can plug it, or else you can't get the plug in there. Alright, so next up you got to use the little scrubby tool And if you noted the orientation, the screw or the nail or whatever was in there came out, it's a lot easier. This guy's kind of blunt on the end, so it'll find the hole, but you just have to get it in the right orientation to where the screw came. And you just twist around, kind of wiggling it around to see. And what you're doing is cleaning the hole out, and you're making it a little bit bigger so the plug can go in there. So I just twist and twist and twist. You can hear it crunching around on the radial. So you twist, twist, twist. So you get the hole cleaned out. And also note the direction that this is, because that's the orientation you're going to put the plug in. Makes it a lot easier. So after you've twisted it around for a little bit, then just leave that guy hanging, because he's going to give you a direction. Alright, so next we got to get one of those little black things and put it on our little insertion tool. So we got to get these guys and put them on this thing, and I'll show you how to do that. So grab one of them out of the little pack, and they're really sticky, as they need to be, because they're going to seal your tire back up for you. Alright, so we got our one little guy, and what we're going to do is actually feed it into this thing right here. And so we got to push him through. Well, he doesn't want to push real easy, but he does go in there. And you want to keep it as clean as possible, so get him started, and then just keep tugging him till he's about halfway. And so that's about halfway right there. Alright, so we got the direction from this tool, and so I know I'm going in somewhere like that right there. Right? So we just want to take this guy, and we want to shove him in that hole in the same orientation. So this is where you got to push a little bit. And so just wiggle back and forth as you push it in. You can see it's going into the hole. Now you don't have to go all the way in. Leave a little bit hanging out, because we're going to cut that off. Alright, and then you just pull the tool back a little bit. Give it a little twist until you see those guys moving. And that way you know that it's in there, and it's made a little ball on the end of it. And then you just pull your tool back out. And what it does is it leaves that little guy in there for you, and it plugged up your hole. So now, theoretically, our hole is plugged up, and we won't leak down anymore. So let's, at this point, air it up, and we're going to check with some bubbles before we cut the ends off. We'll check with some bubbles on there, make sure it's not leaking. If it's not leaking, we'll put some bubbles on there and cut these off, and we'll be done. Alright, so back over here to air things up, and then we'll come back and check for leaks. Alright, so we're all aired back up again, and I got about 32, 33 psi in there. And so now we got to get our bubbles, and we go back under here and we see if our patch is leaking. So there's our little plug, and so now we take some more of our water bubbles and we put it on the plug, and we check and see, is it leaking now. So as you can see, it is no longer leaking. So we don't have any big bubbles coming out, so we're in good shape. Alright, so the last step is, if you left it like that right there and you went driving down the road, it's probably going to pull your plug out. So the last tool in our little toolkit is our little X-Acto knife. And so what we want to do with the bubbles on it now, it's going to be slick. And so what I can do is easily cut that. And what I want to do is just cut it right down flush with the surface of the tire, not to cut the tire, and just leave it like that right there. And so that part gets gone, and then there is our little plug pad. So we check it one more time with the bubbles, and we can see we no longer have a leak. So at this point we're good to go, and we can drive on back home. We'll check the air pressure and make sure everything's okay. But you didn't have to use any goo, so your tire is still good, and you can take it to a tire shop. They'll actually take the tire off, put a patch on the inside right here. Probably leave your plug in there or take it out and put a new plug. But you can get it all took care of that way. For me, I've never had any of these things come out or have an issue. But if I was concerned about it, I'd take it to a tire shop and then have them fix it for me. It won't cost very much at this point because there's no goo in it. We didn't worry about having to mess up our tire pressure monitors, and we didn't have any of that. So we should be in good shape. Well, alright, let's check the air one more time and we should be good to go. Alright, so at this point, I don't really know about this gauge because it doesn't get used very often, so I'm going to take it off. And I'm going to verify it with a little regular gauge. If it needs to go up any more, we'll put some more in it. But as you can see, I'm right around 32, 33, so that gauge is in pretty good shape for working. We just want to check and make sure our stem's not leaking. So you can take some of your water bubbles and put it on your stem and just make sure that it's in good shape. Blow any of the water off. Put our cap bag on and we're ready to go home. Well, alright, let's get everything packed up. But that's about it for plugging a tire versus using that goo stuff. It's really going to mess everything up. Got to do a little pre-planning. Got to have you some soap bubbles and a bottle of water. Now that I poked a hole in it, I'll replace my bottle of water. And since I'm running really low on soap bubbles, I'll get me another one of them. Little soap bubble thing. And you need some tire repair plugs. Like I say, these sticky black ones that are like fiber, they work really, really good. I've never had an issue out of those. And some tools to get the screw out. The little thing that goes with this kit, something to cut your end off, and the little scrubby thing that comes in the kit as well. So all you need is those two tools and that, and there you go. So we have successfully removed our screw that messed up our day, and we'll go on about our lives. Well, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching.